This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you for the next couple hours, and it is a game day show. We actually have a game to talk about. How about that? Jets and Canucks tonight out on the West Coast, 9 p.m. start as the post-Olympic portion of the schedule begins. Jets taking on the 32nd place Vancouver Canucks tonight. We're going to head out to Vancouver and hit a wide range of topics with our buddy Matt Sekeres. Looking forward to talking to Sekeres. It is always fun to have him on the program, and obviously there's lots to talk about for both of these teams. It's draft lottery sim time for the Canucks, and it's been that way for the last couple of months. And, the Jets have a huge climb if they even want to get back into sniffing distance of the playoff spot. And I know many will feel that, this is time for the Jets to be sellers, and I am of the opinion that they most likely will be next week. But there are still 5 games before the trade deadline happens, and we'll see what happens on this West Coast road trip. Of course, it will be Eric Comrie starting tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuyck will still be beating the team in Anaheim after getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom last night in Washington, D.C., along with the majority of his USA teammates. Well, he was the only one that got the award. So listen, we're going to hit all of that with Sekeres coming up. We'll also find out what the mood is around Vancouver and what that team's looking to do at the deadline heading into the offseason. Mike McIntyre is back in the city, and he's going to join us today. I thought Mike might need a few days, but really looking forward to recapping his entire Olympic experience. And we'll get back to Sunday's game, an all-timer that did not go our way with the United States winning the gold medal, but also some of the other great stories that he covered and followed at the Olympic Games, as well as his thoughts on the Jets going into these final 5 games before next week's trade deadline. And Connor is in Vancouver. He is at the skate right now. Now, the Jets aren't even taking the ice for about another 20 minutes. So we'll hit what we expect the lines to be coming up in just a couple minutes here on the opening segment. But Connor will join us a little later on, and we'll get the lowdown on what Coach has to say and the latest on the Jets from the road as they begin this road trip. Great to have you all with us. I had to laugh earlier today, and who was it? Who do I need to give credit to in the chat? But Randy Zappia, yes, give Remis the Presidential Medal of Freedom for controlling the chat. Hey, listen, I know this is an incredibly polarizing topic. I know people have strong opinions on both sides. Some people do, others maybe more in the middle. Just ask you to be respectful of everyone's opinion. Everyone's entitled to theirs, and we will deal with it. But I can tell you personally, I am more than looking forward to putting this whole saga in the rear view, moving on to playing some hockey and focusing on the topics that are of most concern to Winnipeg Jet fans. That is where this team is right now in the standings. That is the upcoming trade deadline. That is potential moves that will be made or could be made around the deadline. And in conjunction with that, we do have the latest trade board from Chris Johnson at The Athletic, so we'll touch on that as well. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, a huge thanks to the sponsors and partners of ours that help us make this show happen for you each and every day. Of course, the gang over at Coolbet Canada, the Winnipeg Jets, and we will be doing another WST game of the month coming up. The Thursday game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Would love to see you join us up for that. John Cooper and obviously the top team in the East coming to town. Should be a fun one. WinnipegJets.com/WST is where you get your tickets for that and come and join us. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. We will get to the Clean Line lines coming up in just a couple minutes as well as we get ready for tonight's game. As well as Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, Rolly's Transfer, the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, the HSC Foundation, and of course a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you all. And welcome to you, Michael Remis. So you missed a doozy yesterday, buddy, but glad to have you back. And shout out to Adam. Did a great job holding it down while you were away.
Yeah, what a day it was yesterday. Just the day before the return to the NHL. I'm flipping the channels late at night. There's no Olympic primetime. Hockey hasn't started. I'm like, what am I going to do here? So, Tuesday night, just went to bed early.
Did you watch any TGL?
I saw it was on Monday. I was looking for stuff. I did not put
it's
on
cool.
TGL.
It is really cool. I got to tell you, I am a fan of the TGL. It is a really cool television product. And, as I said, there was nothing going on the last day other than people losing it on social media. So it's nice to just get away a little bit, watch a little bit of golf, and stay out of the internet streets as much as possible. You did. I mean, of all the days for you to be away yesterday, I will say this: you do a good job daily manning the chat. Probably could have used you yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, but you know what? Listen, it got off to a little bit of a rough start, I think, with some of the things. But for the most part, I want to thank everyone. I was trying to keep an eye on it throughout the show. And, while there were some hot takes early on, and we all were expecting that, it was really respectful, as the vast majority of our listeners are each and every day. So shout out to everyone for that. Do thank you very much. So yeah, listen, let's just get right to it. I mean, what a scene yesterday in DC. Hrabchak named, I don't know whether he pulled that thing off the wall as the Secretary of Defense, but he got it. I see Timbro, Connor Hrabchak, first hockey player ever to win the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Jets legend. And then, yeah, he got it was announced yesterday during that record-breaking State of the Union speech that Helly's getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And, it is an incredible honor. I know some people will not like the person that was giving out the award, and I get that. But, man, dude, I mean, when you look at the list of athletes in history that have won that award, it is an absolutely incredible tip of the cap to Hrabchak. And listen, he was always our guy here in Winnipeg. I mean, he is now the talk of American sports circles right now, and did the tour yesterday, 1 million media interviews and all of that, and then getting the award yesterday. So listen, I totally understand people's feelings about the person that was gifting the award. But I'll tell you what, his historic performance against Canada continues to garner him accolades that, to be honest, it almost feels like we're living in a simulation or something like that, because it's so hard to wrap your head around. But he'll be joining the team tomorrow in California. I imagine he'll be back in the net for the Jets against the Anaheim Ducks. And that's really all anyone was talking about yesterday. It wasn't about the Jets and Canucks coming up tonight at 9 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, the other people who've received this Medal of Freedom: Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson, Michael Jordan, Joe DiMaggio, Tiger Woods, Yogi Berra, Megan Rapinoe, Leo Messi, and now Connor Hrabchak, the first hockey player. And yes, quite a scene. And, for Hrabchak, who's been such a great goalie for so long, Vezina trophies, Hart Trophy, it is nice to see him get some national recognition here. Don't enjoy the way that it happened.
Circumstances around it.
Not a fan, but it happened, and that's the reality. And every time we watch the Jets now, we're going to be reminded of every time he reaches back to make a save, like the one on Devon Taves. You're like, oh, that's like the Devon Taves save. This is going to be haunting us, I think, for a while. And in the U.S., they'll celebrate their gold medal in hockey, their double gold for a day, and probably forget about it until 4 years from now.
You know what? I often joke. I mean, being a sports fan, you're set up, you're prepared for failure. I mean, only one team wins the championship every year, and it's incredibly difficult to win. And I think a lot of the rap on Hrabchak for not being good in the playoffs is somewhat overblown. He's got 2 big Game 7 wins, one in double OT last year, the Nashville series. I mean, I always thought that was a lazy narrative, but it is so conflicting that a guy that has done so much for this city, this team, he's going straight to the Hall of Fame, folks. He's the greatest Jet, without a doubt, of the 2.0 era, and with his individual accolades and the fact that this team has never won a Stanley Cup, it probably puts him ahead of literally everybody else that's played within the NHL era of the Winnipeg Jets. And for his greatest moment, the one that, will be iconic for him, for it to happen at our expense against the Canadian national team just seems like, it's like cruel and unusual. But, it's just adding, I think, a little bit more to the disappointment. And I think the mixed feelings that a lot of people have, as one of our own, was such a big role in, unfortunately, giving us a silver medal as opposed to the gold that we'd been waiting for so many years.
Yeah, a lot of reaction for sure from that. And, again, tough to watch Canada lose and, see the scenes as the celebration has gone on and on here for Team USA. I like some players, missing games. Hrabchak will be arriving with the Jets tomorrow. Not expected to play tonight. Kyle Connor will be in the lineup, but yeah, we're going to be seeing, hearing about this one for a while, and I guess we count down to the World Cup now in 2 years for the next best on best.
This is, as I say, we'll touch on this a little bit with Mike and with Matt when they join us. But this is, a very interesting lineup that we're looking at tonight. And Remo, we may as well right now just pull up the clean line lines and look at the way this lineup is shaping up tonight. Coming out of practice yesterday, of course, they're always brought to you by our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, who are your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience for residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services, 24/7 emergency services as well. Remember the number, 204-500-2001 for Clean Line. They got you covered 24/7, 365. So surprisingly, Kyle Connor made it back yesterday. I think that kind of caught everybody off guard. He seems very focused to be honest, put that Olympic experience behind him, despite getting a gold medal, not playing in the final game and in the medal round. I think, has him very much focused on tonight and moving forward. He'll be on that top line with Scheifele and Velarde. Perfetti with Lowry and Iafallo. Now, Nino listed from practice yesterday on the left side of Taves and Nemetsnikov. It doesn't sound like Nino's going to play for a little bit, still dealing with something coming out of the Olympic Games, Reem.
Yeah, so these are the practice lines from yesterday. They haven't gone on the ice, so will it be Tanner Pearson that just steps in there with Taves and Nemetsnikov? We'll have to wait and see, but that was a surprise yesterday. And Neil Pionk, we thought he was coming back, but he tweaked something else, and now we got top pair defenseman Logan Stanley with Dylan DeMello, Dylan Sandberg, and Elias Salomonsson. And Ville Heinola has entered the conversation now on the left side with
season
Luke
debut
Shen.
tonight.
Season debut. So
expected.
Yeah, that's what we're expecting. So pump for Ville. He's been on the Moose this season, battled injury. And what was that? Was that 2 years ago or last year where no one really got injured? Was never had an opportunity. This year it seems like you're missing Morrissey, missing Pionk. Colin Miller's hurt, Hayden Fleury's hurt. So Ville Heinola getting a shot, and I'm curious what this version of Ville Heinola is going to look like. He's started off slow, but has come on recently with the Moose, recovering from injuries. He had the ankle one that we know about. The stuff takes time, and he's still only 25. I don't think we really know what Ville Heinola is capable of. Maybe he's a serviceable, third pair D, a guy who could be a regular NHLer. He is going to get some power play time on the second unit, so you got to be excited for him, as it's been a tough year and a tough stretch of him being hurt and not being in the NHL, and when he was in the NHL, not getting in the lineup.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Ville's had a pretty unfortunate run for the last couple of years. Now, certainly at the start of this year, he wasn't playing well with the Moose. I think really turned that on in and around the holidays and post coming out of the Christmas break, and has been great. By all accounts, has been a real good teammate, a popular guy with the Moose. He's going to be looking for a fresh start in the offseason. But I will say the timing of this as well, if you assume that he is going to be, he will be a Group 6 UFA this summer. He's a first-round pick. If he can come into the lineup and, have a strong game, maybe get on the scoreboard, maybe there is a team that would give the Jets some sort of a draft pick or some sort of compensation for him, and he can get a fresh start for the remainder of the season and potentially next year. But I said I'm a big fan of Ville. I really like him as a guy. Obviously we had such high hopes for him early on, and through a number of reasons just hasn't really been able to achieve the potential that we saw as an 18-year-old. I wish him well. And, starting with tonight in what could be, final few games as a member of the organization if something happens in and around the trade deadline. The other part of the defense, as you mentioned, with the loss of Josh Morrissey and the loss of Neil Pionk, this is a very different top four. We expect Heinola to be with Shen on that third pairing. Dylan Sandberg, congratulations to the new dad, by the way. Dylan Sandberg and Elias Salomonsson as one of the pairs, and then Big Stan, Logan Stanley, and Dylan DeMello. And I did say yesterday with Connor and with Murat Reem, could this be maybe the most opportune time to showcase a player, if you would, before the trade deadline, considering his contract status, the season that he's had so far this year, going up against the 32nd ranked team in the league and getting a chance to play number one power play and 1A, 1B pairing. There'll be some big minutes for Stan tonight. So I think no matter how you feel about Stan and, moving forward, a big game from the big guy tonight, I think would only help to maybe boost his trade value as we get closer to next week, if in fact he is dealt by the Jets with that expiring contract.
Yeah, a lot of talk about the upcoming trade deadline. The Jets need to sell. The Jets need to retool. I'm not to be honest, what value or what assets the Jets can expect to get back from, who the pending UFAs are and who they can trade at the deadline. And, this brings us to Chris Johnson's trade board, the 7.0 version, that has Luke Shen, the first Jet, number 14 on the list, but Logan Stanley in at number 20 and Gus Nyquist in at 33. So, maybe if Logan Stanley gets opportunity here on the top pair, looks okay against bottom-ranked Vancouver Canucks. You see that shot on the power play that brings everyone at Canada Life Center off their seat in anticipation of the bomb that could be unleashed. Could Stan increase his trade value? So I think a big opportunity for him. And you're hearing rumors, what kind of contract could he get next year? This is a big opportunity for him to showcase, say, hey, he's okay in a top pair role. He's capable of those minutes. I'm sure some team out there has got their eye on him for next season.
I have asked the Coolbet boys to get Stan added to the goal and point props tonight. He's not a guy that's normally listed, but I think tonight calls for that. So we'll hit on that at the end of the program. We'll see what they come up with. Here's what CJ had to say in his write-up at The Athletic about Stanley. The Jets have invested nearly a decade in Stanley's development and seen him blossom with a surge in scoring to go with the stout physical play you'd expect from a 6'7" defenseman, unafraid to drop his gloves to defend teammates, and with the reach that's basically unmatched across the league, Stanley is in a position to cash in this summer with a contract that could be worth $25 million or more. That leaves Winnipeg with a decision to make. Does it want to be the team offering the deal, or is it time to cash in on its investment by putting him on the trade market? So that's what the CJ Stan, as you mentioned, a couple of other Jet players making this top 50. Gustav Nyquist, who is still waiting. Maybe tonight will be the night, Reem. Speaking of goal props, will Gustav Nyquist score a goal as a Winnipeg Jet before potentially being traded? And who is the other one? Is Luke Schenn on this list somewhere?
Yeah, Schenn. Yeah, he's ahead of Stan. He's 14, and Nyquist is 33. Like, people clamoring for Luke Schenn in a depth role. Now, they traded a lot to get him last year, and Nyquist went for a second-round pick last year too. I don't think they're going to be getting that back. I would like to see Gus get. I thought we're going to witness history a couple times with his first goal as a Jet. It would be a damn shame. I mean, if he went his whole Jet career without a goal. And he has had chances, but he is on the fourth line with Cole Koepke and Morgan Barron. But maybe he moves up with Taves and Nemestikov. With the Niederreiter being out, we're waiting for them to step on the ice for line rushes. And, I wonder, would someone trade for Ville Heinola? He has no value. He passed through waivers this year. Does anyone, even in the league, know who he is? He's a former first-round pick, but he hasn't done anything. But if someone's looking for a guy and then maybe acquire him in a trade and send him down as extreme depth, maybe that could happen if he plays well here in this third pairing role.
You know what? And I think there's also the possibility of a team that's out of the playoffs. That's a younger team that, doesn't have a lot of defense that, might take a flyer on bringing him in and, seeing how he fits in and maybe extending him. I mean, that's a possibility as well. We'll hit that with Mike coming up a little later on. Tico to Pauly, thanks for the super chat. Congrats, Helly. How long till Helly wants out of Winnipeg? Well, I hope that's not a conversation we're having on this program. And I don't see why that it would be. He seems to be quite happy here. And obviously, the only thing left to do is win a cup. And if he does it, I'd far prefer he do it here than somewhere else. But as we've been talking about all week long, a lot to do around the best goaltender in the world if the Jets are going to be in that spot in seasons to come. But Matt Sekeres coming up right away. Folks, a week tomorrow is the deadline for the early bird prizes for the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. Go to stbmegamillionchoices.ca to get your tickets today and count yourself in for over $280,000 worth of early bird prizes by getting your tickets before Thursday midnight, March the 5th. Incredible options. 26 Chevy Silverado Trail Boss EV valued at $115K. A 2026 Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum valued at $117K, or $100,000 cash tax-free. 2 prizes of those. There's also going to be 25 winners of Apple iPhone 17 Pros or Samsung Galaxy S25s, or $1,000 cash. And of course, everyone getting their tickets will be in for the grand prize draw, one of 5 dream home packages worth $1.5 million or $1.25 million cash, tax-free. And it all goes to support the very important research and work done at the St. Boniface Hospital. Again, stbmegamillionchoices.ca is where you get your tickets. You can also hit up London Drugs or Red River Co-op locations if you want to get your tickets in person. Shout out to our friends at Uptown Alley. There's a lot going on these days. Sometimes it's good just to get away, turn the brain off, and have a blast. Nowhere better to do that than Uptown Alley with a whole lot of fun waiting for you. 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, laser tag, state-of-the-art arcade, and incredible food and beverage options I know Schnitzy was out there. He was trying the bao buns. Couldn't stop raving about them. My personal favorite, those dry ribs. Still thinking about them from the last time I was there. Great spot for birthday parties for kids, teens, and adults. An amazing spot for group and corporate events where you simply let the Uptown Alley staff know what you're planning on doing, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and they will take care of the rest, and you will have a blast. Find out more, 488-0000, uptownalley.ca online. And, of course, you can also take advantage of that bowl and play special every day after 9 p.m. Hey, if you've got a move plan, folks, holler at our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Locally owned and operated for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Head on over to Rollies.com and click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to go. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for now into their 7th decade. Rollies Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more or get an estimate today over at Rollies.com. And hey, we're back on the ice tonight. Hopefully our smiles will return after a lot of frowns from the Olympic game. Speaking of smiles, you need to get that grill worked on. Head on over to St. Vital Dental Center and our pal Dr. Terry and his amazing staff. They've been serving generations of Winnipeggers, handling clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. They do it all at St. Vital Dental Center with the best staff in the biz. A beautiful new facility as well, 167 St. Anne's, with convenient free parking right behind the building. For all your dental needs, St. Vital Dental Center is there for you. Make an appointment today online, stvitaldental.ca. And when you pop by, make sure to say hi from the gang over at Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, Mike McIntyre coming up after 2 p.m. Right now, though, let's get ready for Jets Canucks. Talk about both teams as well as everything coming out of the Olympics with our pal Matt Sekeres of Sekeres and Price. Matt, what's going on? How are you doing, pal?
I'm fantastic, Andrew. Thanks for having me back on the program. I would say looking forward to the Canucks Jets tonight, but who are we kidding?
This is quite the way to begin the stretch.
Right.
I mean, I think for both people, for both of our markets, more so Vancouver than Winnipeg, but who are we kidding? I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people holding out hope that the Jets are going to be playing playoff games this year. There's intense interest, I think, over the course of these next couple weeks. The big question is post-trade deadline, assuming that both teams are basically just getting ready to make a selection in late June and revamp their teams.
Yeah, I can't. I'm going to imagine there'll be plenty of tickets available here in Vancouver over the final couple of months of the season, with the Canucks in dead last of the NHL standings, and by quite a margin as well, Andrew. I mean, there's not even this sort of drama of can somebody catch them. The Canucks would have to play some really good hockey after the break, presumably, or after the deadline, presumably after trading out some veterans to catch the next worst team in the NHL. So I do think they're going to wind up finishing 32nd and have the best opportunity at selecting Gavin McKenna or Ivar Stenberg. But of course, it's only a 25% chance if you're last. It will solidify a top 3 pick for them, though, because you can fall no farther than number 3 if you're the worst team in the league. So that is sort of the drama and the intrigue left in this Canucks season, of course, after we get past a week from Friday and the trade deadline.
Matt, take us through this year for Vancouver. I mean, it's so different than Winnipeg. I mean, the Jets won the President's Trophy last year. I think by any measure, they've been the most disappointing in comparison to what expectations were. It was a tumultuous offseason. Tocchet leaves, Adam Foote comes in. I mean, kind of just carrying over from the disaster of last year. But again, this team was, they missed by 5 or 6 points last year. I don't think we thought that the Canucks would be in the basement by a margin at this point. I mean, how did they get here, and is this part of the plan?
No, it was certainly not part of the plan. The plan was to be good this year and bounce back into the playoffs after missing last season. Of course, 2 years ago, won the regular season Pacific Division crown and got to the second round, Game 7 against Edmonton. Yeah, I mean, Tocchet bailed, and with that came a lot more organizational instability. They hired Adam Foote, and I'm not sure Adam Foote would have got a single interview with any other team for the head coaching job. They hired Adam Foote in part because he was supposed to be the Quinn Hughes whisperer. He had coached him positionally as the defense coach under Rick Tocchet, and Quinn Hughes lasted a couple of months here before he wanted out amidst more losing. So it's funny you ask, because I just put the timeline together yesterday in terms of where everything went wrong. And look, you can take this back a lot further than last offseason. But, heading into the draft, they made a trade for Evander Kane. They took him on full freight at $5 million, which ate into their salary cap space and ultimately prevented them from getting a center, which they so desperately needed. They were trying to peddle their 15th overall pick for a center. No takers there, so they left the draft without a center. They went into free agency without a ton of cap space. Well, with enough cap space to get a center, but then they went ahead and re-signed Brock Besser to a big deal, and that took them out of the mix to re-sign Pius Suter, who had played a pretty good center for them. And so it was one personnel disaster after another. I mean, they compounded matters by extending Thatcher Demko and Connor Garland. And of course, Thatcher Demko, once again, his health failed him here. They traded Archer Shilovs, who was a good young goaltender, to Pittsburgh. So one calamity after another. And then on October 19th, Tom Wilson hit Philip Hedl in the head, and Hedl suffered his fifth or sixth known concussion. And suddenly they were absolutely desperate at center ice. They were trying guys like Lucas Reichel and Drew O'Connor, who were clear wingers at center ice. And then the losing started, and then the Quinn Hughes trade happened in December. So pretty much everything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
The Hughes trade, is such a massive, massive move for an organization to make. And, I think early takes on this trade was that, Vancouver made a deal at a time when, they got a pretty damn good return for a player that, likely they had for the remainder of one season and one more before that they were gone. What have been the early returns from that? And are people still high on the move that was made, or does that fade a little bit as you get into losing game after game?
Well, I think people were high on the move at the time it was made, and if any of that sort of zest for the return was fading, some of it may have disappeared with the way Mr. Hughes conducted himself through the Olympics and during the celebration. I can't imagine people here in Vancouver loved the folks he was associating with here of late. Marco Rossi has been hurt pretty much since that deal was made. And Marco Rossi is finally healthy, and we're going to see what Marco Rossi can do starting tonight against the Jets. That's a good NHL centerman. Now, whether he's a bona fide number two or if he's sort of a number three masquerading as a number two, time will tell. But I think people were excited about Rossi because we had been talking about trying to acquire Rossi in last offseason when Bill Guerin was shopping him. Zeev Buium started with some tremendous flashes, almost looking like Quinn Hughes light in his ability to handle the puck, skate himself out of traffic, and create some offense. Now he's level dropped from there, and now he's been hurt as well with a facial fracture, so he'll be in a cage tonight when he plays. Still a lot of optimism about his upside as an offensive-minded defenseman. The question there is he a top pair guy, or is he or his defensive deficiencies going to keep him as a middle pair guy? Liam Ogren has had some tremendous flashes for this team. He is a big boy who can skate. He has scored some shootout winners. He's scored some big goals in the few games the Canucks have won here of late. There is some inconsistency to his game. It's going to take some time. And of course, they got a first-round pick in this upcoming draft as well. And it seems like this draft class looks like a pretty decent one. So I think Canucks fans are happy with the return, but needless to say, it was devastating saying goodbye to the best defenseman defenseman in franchise history. Never before had Vancouver had a defenseman who you could say was amongst the best in the world. And Quinn Hughes made it easy on a lot of nights for them, and that's not easy anymore.
Well, he certainly was box office and brought fans out of their seats. You mentioned where the Canucks are. You just compare the Jets. Jets are, 9 back of the wild card right now. The Canucks are 7 back of 31st. I mean, This is not a... we talk about how much it takes to gain 3 or 4 points. I mean, if you're on Team Tank, which I'm sure the majority of Canuck fans are at this point, they're in a really good spot. So, I guess two-parter. What's the intrigue? What may or may not happen? What are people looking for in and around the deadline? And once that deadline is finished, what positives can come out of the rest of their season?
So they're looking for young assets and high draft picks. That much is clear. There has never, I think, been a bigger appetite in this market for a full teardown rebuild. Now, I don't believe that ownership and management is going to go down that route. I think they're a little scared to be bad for the extended period of time that a full teardown rebuild is going to take. But clearly the market wants young players and high draft picks. They want to see all these UFAs traded: Evander Kane, Teddy Bluger, David Kampf, maybe even Lucas Reichel. They want to see some of the veterans with term traded, whether that's Jake DeBrusk, whether that's Connor Garland. Some of those veterans, in fact, most of those veterans have trade protection, so it may be a little too difficult to get them moved by the deadline. Look, post-trade deadline, I think they want to see young players improving. That's what you sign up for when you move into a rebuild, that you're going to play a lot of young players. They're going to make some mistakes. They're going to learn for them. But what's important is that they're giving you a full effort every night, making things as competitive as possible and improving. And so I think that is going to be the intrigue and the fascination for the final 20-some games of this Canucks schedule. Then, of course, we get to the offseason, and it would all be about the draft lottery and whether they're in a position to pick McKenna or Stenberg first or second. Overall.
Matt, I'm interested in your perspective from the West Coast on what's happened here in Winnipeg this year.
Oh. Boy, that's a big question, Andrew. And I'd be lying if I said I paid attention game to game to be able to have the most informed view on that. I will tell you a couple of things that got onto my radar with the Jets. Number one is the head coach, Scott Arniel. Boy, as of December onwards, there were some peculiar press availabilities and scrums and sound bites that I heard out of Arniel, almost as though he was searching for answers, almost as though he was out of answers. And, we know Scott a little bit here in Vancouver because he coached the minor league team a number of years ago, was in the Canucks organization. And I was rooting for him, but there is a part of me that wonders whether he's an NHL coach or whether he was the best coach for this group. I mean, it still looks like a talented team to me. Like, that's the thing that I can't get over when I look up and down the Winnipeg Jets roster. Okay, they have a hole here, they have a hole there. Every NHL team has a hole these days. I'm really, really surprised with the star power, the level of player that Winnipeg has, and a Scheifele and a Connor and a Hellebuck, that they haven't been able to stem the bleeding. I was very much in the camp of, Winnipeg will get its act together. That's a President's Trophy winning team. That is absolutely a Western Conference playoff club. So I'm sitting here just as dismayed and surprised that we're talking about the Jets as an also-ran and maybe even a seller by next Friday's deadline, given what is on the ice night to night in Winnipeg. And if that's the case, harsh as it may be, I have nowhere else to look but the coaching.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Arnie, it's just bizarre. I mean, we coming off a President's Trophy winning season where they won everything and they were the top team in the league. And then, it's almost like they had everything go their way for one season, and now the invoices are coming in. But I'm with you. And I mean, if you look at that 11-game losing streak that essentially sunk the Jets season, and I'm sure that was the point where you mentioned it was like, what the heck's going on in Winnipeg? And they're getting a little bit more attention, and you're hearing, I think they lost 12 straight one-goal games. And it was just finding ways to lose where I mean, it wasn't like the team wasn't competing. They certainly hadn't quit. I mean, there was nothing like that. And yet night after night after night, you're finding yourself losing. And, it will be fascinating to see how things work out, especially for Winnipeg over the next couple of weeks, because, there's a bunch of guys on expiring deals that, if you can get something, the organization will. But they've really made pretty big commitments to, the star players. And, in a city like Winnipeg, in a situation, you need to sign your players, and they've done a very good job of that. But where has that gotten them?
Yeah.
I mean, the big question is really the rest of the lineup around them. And I mean, truly, for the Jets to take another step, I mean, maybe, if they can be fortunate enough and get a top 3 pick and get a player that can poise to be sort of that next one beyond Scheifele. I mean, if you look into a year or two ahead, or 3 more likely, if this team is going to compete, it's probably going to be with the guys that are the ones right now being as the 2s. And to find top line players like that, I mean, it's really, really hard. And obviously Kevin Cheveldayoff feeling it right now. And then coming off of the Olympics, I mean, this team has a Presidential Medal of Freedom winner in net, Matt.
That's right.
With those other players, I mean, I think that maybe like outside the market, that the questions and the pressure on a Cheveldayoff to get this team back to where they were and competitive and giving them more chances to, erase a disappointing playoff history really gets ramped up, because, as I said, these players are not getting any younger.
Yeah. And you mentioned Kevin, and look, one of the things that I always admired about Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Winnipeg Jets program and the way it was operated. And Andrew, you may remember, I mean, I started my career in our nation's capital and got a firsthand view of the Ottawa Senators when they were on a shoestring budget with an owner who wasn't nearly healed enough to make a go in the pre-salary cap NHL even. So, he's sitting there looking at it versus the Rangers and the Leafs and what they were able to spend in that era, if you have audience members who are old enough to remember that time in the NHL. And what the Senators did at the time was they said, okay, we are going to be the best draft and develop organization in the National Hockey League. And they were so good at it that they won a President's Trophy as well and found themselves as competing and contending for Stanley Cups in one of the smallest markets with one of the smallest budgets. I marveled at just how good the Winnipeg Jets were at the draft table for so many years, and then the way they developed those players and got them into their NHL lineup and being contributors. I thought it was absolutely the way to go in a market like Winnipeg, because you knew you were going to be able to attract all the big free agents. And so my regard for Kevin Cheveldayoff and the program that he was running in Winnipeg was sky high. You take a look at it now, and some of those first-round picks who have not yet materialized. I know Yeager was the trade for the young man who didn't want to play in Winnipeg, but Barlow, Lambert, some of the other high draft picks who are at the age where you figured, okay, in previous Jets incarnations, these guys would probably be contributing to the NHL club now. And I can't help but think what the Jets would look like if you took those players or other players you could have taken in those draft slots and have them on the NHL roster right now. I think it would still be a pretty darn good team.
Matt, I've got to ask you about this today. Not that I really want to, but obviously Canada lost to the United States. They've had their big party. They were in D.C. being celebrated yesterday. There are a number of big-time players on Canadian teams on that team. Hrabchak here in Winnipeg, obviously. Mm-hmm. The captains of the 2 Ontario teams, Brady Tkachuk and Austin Matthews. Mm-hmm. I mean, is this going to be, a few days where just some people are mad online and then it just sort of disappears? Or will there be some, will this linger for a while, do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it's got the capacity to linger. Now, first of all, we tend to just move on these days, as you know, Andrew. Short attention spans, short news cycles. I think there's the capacity for some of this to linger in several examples. For example, Kyle Connor went straight back to Winnipeg, and Connor Hellebuck went to the party in the White House. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So clearly some value judgments were made there between the two players. Brady Tkachuk is heard on that video saying, close the northern border. He plays in our nation's capital. If ever there was a community where the elbows up message resonates, I can assure you it is the capital of Canada, Ottawa, Ontario, where you have people who come from across the country to work for the federal government because they believe in the idea of Canada. That is going to be a difficult genie to stuff back into the bottle. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are erstwhile playoff contenders, I sure hope Austin Matthews is in uniform and plays a great game, because I think they got Tampa here. I sure hope that Austin Matthews is in uniform and plays a great game, because if for any reason Austin Matthews doesn't bring his best or isn't able to play in a game that's pretty critical to the Leafs playoff hopes, as everyone will be from here on in, that has the capacity to linger in Toronto. I'll draw you the example, Andrew. You may be old enough to remember Vince Carter leaving for North Carolina to attend his graduation.
Game 7.
That's right, before Game 7 of an NBA playoff series. He didn't miss a game. His off day and his game preparation lingered with him amongst Raptors fans and Toronto sports fans. How could you? Austin Matthews is staring down the barrel of how could you if he's not in uniform or if he doesn't play well in a game the Leafs lose and ultimately cost them the playoffs.
You know, Matthews is interesting, and obviously with the market that it is, I'm with you. The Tkachuk, I didn't know. I mean, I had heard somebody say that, but I hear a lot of people say a lot of things online, and I'm always skeptical as the veracity of some of these things. But let's face it. I mean, the Tkachuks in particular, front and center through all of this. I mean, I have time for guys that, are part of the team. It's a great honor. Like, this would not be even an issue if the guy that is running the country wasn't the guy that was giving out these awards and at the front of the thing. Like I don't remember, like when Sidney Crosby went to the White House, was there a big, when it was Trump was the guy there at that point? I mean, like, I didn't hear much. Now, again, it was the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's an American team going to the White House. I don't know whether that's a big story. I mean, we're a lot more closer to it right now because this is coming out of the Olympic Games, and obviously a crushing disappointment for everyone coast to coast with what the game happened. But there will be some people, and I totally understand that, feel off about it and, aren't too pleased. But when it comes back to it, I mean, especially for a guy like Matthews, well, and I'll say Tkachuk as well. I mean, frankly, because Ottawa is still, has a chance of making the playoffs, although it is unlikely. I just do wonder whether this is something. And again, I am more with you that, whatever, there'll be people mad online for a little bit, and then they'll get to a game a little later on. They'll remember this is one of the best players your franchise has ever had, and you've been cheering him for a long time. And it's not like he's been running around in a full MAGA suit or anything. They got feted, as has been tradition forever, and move on. But I do think more so than in any other case, and all because it is so radioactive with a certain individual, that maybe this does linger a little bit longer, at least for some people. I mean, it won't be the majority of it. I heard a radio station in town today that did a poll on this, and it was like around 20% that didn't like it. About 50% were fine with it, and a bunch of others were conflicted. And sometimes the loudest voices are the ones that you hear on social media, and you kind of get out into the real world, and it's not quite that. But I'm not sure. And any other case, at any other point in history, if we had a similar situation, this would be a big nothing burger. In fact, I think most of the people would be even as upset as they were that they lost. They'd be proud of their own guys that did a good job in winning.
Yeah, I agree that in any other era, this is a nothing burger. The difference with Trump, of course, is that everything is so performative, right? Like, that's what he has brought to politics. And so while you could argue that any NHL team going to the White House during any presidency is being used as a prop for that politician, it is particularly acute with Trump. But secondarily, Trump has also been the most divisive president, right? You're either with him or against him, right? So, and that cranks up the heat, that cranks up the inspection and introspection on all of this more so than it would have under another Republican president like a George W. Bush, a George H.W. Bush, or with a Democratic president like Clinton or Obama as well. So, yeah, I mean, Trump is either a like him or a hate him figure, right? And he's taking on all his enemies at all times and draws a very stark line between what it is to be an American and otherness. Otherness is to be feared. Otherness is to be otherness is difference. Otherness is un-American. Otherness should live in our suspicions. So with that sort of political philosophy coursing through the White House and coursing through the American political discourse, yes, going to the White House, even if it is an American team having won a gold medal, comes with a weighted political consequences that perhaps otherwise would not have been at play. It's funny, it's not too long ago where the American right wanted to keep politics and sports completely separate, and yet there was a hockey team at the White House yesterday being celebrated as they were.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I would imagine that invite would have been regardless of who was there, and I know there was talks about the State of the Union last night. That was the time where they were kind of that was the one time where everyone stood up and gave a big applause because we're all doing it. Then the guy, I say that they copped out big time though. You know what? If you're gonna go there, those guys should have had to sit there and listen to all that bloviating for the full 2 hours. I mean, that you really want to show that you're down with the program, do that, as opposed to just come out, wave a little bit, show off your medal, and leave. But bringing it back to hockey, and it's interesting. Let me just say
one other thing on that. I mean, good thing they didn't, because my goodness, talk about game preparation for tonight. That would have only added fuel to that fire. I found it interesting. If I'm not mistaken, 3 of the 5 guys who didn't go are clients of the agent Ben Hankinson down in Minnesota. So I do wonder whether there was a discussion there between Hankinson and his clients about the pros and cons of going or not. I also find it interesting that Brock Nelson didn't go, because, of course, Brock Nelson has to go back to a Colorado Avalanche room with 2 guys who bear some culpability on the gold medal winning goal, right? Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. And we know how hot Nate runs, and we know how hot that room is, and we can only imagine how singularly focused and miserable Nathan MacKinnon is.
Oh, my God, I can't imagine.
The remainder of this season to win a Stanley Cup and make up for the big trophy lost here in Milan. So, look, I think there are a lot of American players who went simply because it was an invitation to the White House, an invitation to meet their president, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of policy and rhetoric, and respected the office, the site, and the invitation, if you will. I think there was also a lot of American players who went because they are MAGA players. And Andrew, I think you and I have covered hockey long enough to know, I would bet a strong majority of American players in the NHL subscribe to MAGA or are Trump supporters.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would be surprised if it wasn't. I mean, they're wealthy. They're wealthy
white males. That's based.
You can figure it out.
And if they grow up in small town Minnesota or Michigan or New York, that's even more. They're his base, right?
Yeah, the 5 guys that didn't go, I believe Kyle Connor was the only one that wasn't from Minnesota. I know 3 of them work with Hankinson. I think 4 of them are Minnesotans, and 1 was here. But and again, I haven't heard anything from those guys
of political realities, right? With what had happened with the ICE raids and the 2 dead citizens. So. Yeah, no, I mean, this was a weighted, heavy political matter. I would be interested to know how many of those players actually had a think on it, actually had a discussion with their agent, their families, advisors, people whom they trust about the consequences of going versus not going. and how many of them just up and took the invitation because they wanted to keep the party going after Miami.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, staying with the team, if pretty much the team is going there, I mean, I totally get that. And I mean, to be honest, they earned it.
Yep.
You know, and to be honest, I would imagine that almost all of them, regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum, you know, like probably hate the fact that they're damned one way and they're damned the other way. I mean, you know, if all of a sudden, you know, they take some sort of a stand about this, oh, I'm not going because of this, then you're walking into another, firing squad that I don't think anyone signed up for when they made the Olympic team.
The one thing I would say is I'm not sure you're damned if you don't, because I suspect we will hear from Brock Nelson or Kyle Connor or one of the 5 who didn't go. I suspect one of them will say, hey, I had a big NHL game to prepare for.
Oh, that's what Kyle Connor did.
Yeah. And I wanted to put my best foot forward for my enter your club team's name here against so-and-so on Wednesday or on Thursday.
Yeah, no. When I say that, if you do, if you make it, well, you know, if all of a sudden you wade into those waters and say that the reason why you're not going is because you don't agree with this, you don't like him or whatever, then, I mean, the Sharks will come and listen, and they're getting clipped anyways. But I mean, it is I will say this. For winning a gold medal, and I put the fault, you know, to be honest, starting this all with Bill Guerin. And it's almost unconscionable that as the general manager of the Minnesota Wild, that he was the guy that invited a certain guest in to the dressing room that started this whole thing. But hey, before we go, and I know you got to run, I got to ask you quickly because
he is quite the fanboy, though. Would you ever imagine a federal minister behaving that way? Like,
no, just plain and simply no. You know, I think the feeling around Winnipeg in the last couple of years, and this is a team that has, you know, drafted a lot of American players, and you know, some of them have been the greatest in the 2.0 era. I mean, Kyle Connor Hrabchak, obviously, that have both, you know, ended up really liking it here and, you know, signing long term. But you look back to Trouba. And then I think the turning point here was the McGroarty business, where he said all the right things and then sort of pulled the rug out. And, you know, I don't think it was a coincidence they traded Wrecker McGroarty for a kid from the Western League. The Vancouver Canucks, you know, you have this incredible franchise-changing player in Quinn Hughes, who's also American and ends up leaving. Do you think that there'll be a trend for some of the Canadian teams that, I mean, obviously I mentioned Matthews and Tkachuk and, you know, what these teams will be dealing with for a short term. Will it always be, we're just getting the best player and we don't care? Or will we see some Canadian teams, maybe more so in the past, kind of really focus on trying to get Canadian players and Canadian stars?
Well, the funny thing is I don't think hockey managers and scouts ever want to have to consider this because that's not how they're wired. But I do think it would probably be wise to, going forward, and take advantage of the ability to interview these players at the combine and in the lead up to drafts to find out exactly where their headspace is.
The thing is, there's 17. Like,
it's not just that there's 7 teams, but of course we love our hockey more than they love them. They love their hockey. You don't have the scrutiny, even in the best U.S. markets, on players that 100%. You have, like you have in a one sport market like a Winnipeg or an Ottawa, or most. Let's face it, most of the Canadian 7 teams only have 1 team in the Big 4 North American sports leagues. So I think it would be wise to. I think you have to understand who you are, what your community is, and whether it's going to be for all hockey prospects that you're thinking of drafting. And I think it goes beyond even the smaller Canadian markets, because here in Vancouver, like, this is the most progressive left-leaning bastion in all of continental North America, right? So, and it's funny because I do think there's a lot of MAGA players on the Canucks, and I do think a lot of them love living here. And I have trouble sort of reconciling, okay, if you believe in a lot of the MAGA platform, and you're happy as a clam here in Vancouver, like, you're the ones who are supposed to tell me that there are riots on the streets of Vancouver daily and it's so unsafe I can't walk around here because of what the left has done with it. And yet somehow they seem to live and play here and work here happily. So, yeah, I think for some players it's not going to matter in the least, but I think for some players it will. And I think the wise NHL organizations are going to do every bit of investigative work they can to figure out the person that they are drafting as much as the player.
Matty, always great catching up with you. Buckle up for a barn burner tonight on the West Coast. Jets and Canucks, 9 p.m. The schedule is back, and we move forward. Take care, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike.
All right, that was a great chat with Matt Sekeres. Appreciate him, and you can check out his show, Sekeres and Price, wherever you get Winnipeg Sports Talk on the show. Mike McIntyre is back in the peg and going to join us right away. And then we'll be heading out to Van City, getting ready for tonight's game. Connor was at the morning skate or afternoon skate, I guess, for us here in the Central Time Zone, and we'll do that. Do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of WST. Of course, Princess Auto, synonymous with Winnipeg, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you down at Princess Auto. Of course, we're also waiting to get down to Princess Auto Stadium. Cheer on the Blue Bombers this summer. You can visit them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, in-store in the city, out in Brandon as well. You can always shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Man, got some more snow over the last few days. And I know the Derminator and the gang over at Chud's Power Sports are here for it. We've had quite the snowmobile season right now. And for all you folks that love getting on the sleds and on the trails, Manitoba's Power Sports Superstore, Chud's Power Sports, for over 80 years, up in Gimli, corner of Highway 8 and 231, has just started the Polaris 2027 Snow Check program. It's for pre-ordering the new snowmobile models for next year. If you pre-order, you get the best deal of the year on the new models, plus an extra 2-year warranty for a total of 3 years instead of the normal 1 year, $250 in free accessories, and the golden ticket, which should give you $1,000 off the 2028 Snow Check if you want to trade up to 2027. It runs now until March 13th. Go over to the website, chudspowersports.com. It's the header right at the top of the website. You can check that out. And, of course, they got ice fishing shacks, and the spring is just around the corner, everybody. So bikes, motorcycles, ATVs, RVs, they have it all. Definitely worth the trip up to Gimli. And we're going to be doing that, actually, coming up in a few weeks. When the Jets are doing their town takeover in Gimli, we're going to go see the Terminator and the gang at Chuds and look forward to doing a show up there. Again, chudspowersports.com for more information on the Snow Check and everything they've got going up there as well. And hey, I got to shout out Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. They are the local experts for batteries. And hey, listen, we've talked a lot about Canada, USA stuff. It's important to shop local. And when a place like Manitoba Battery provides the best prices in town, beating the pants off the big box stores, and the best customer service, it's an absolute no-brainer. Our pal Ben's just got back to town, needed a new battery, sent us a text. Thank you guys for letting me know about Manitoba Battery. My battery was about half price at Manitoba Battery as opposed to what I would have paid elsewhere. So keep it local. Save money, save time, and get the best customer service at Manitoba Battery. 2 locations now, Logan Avenue, Dover Court Drive. And, of course, you can also shop online at manitobabattery.com. Delivery available anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. All right, we've got Mike McIntyre joining us back. The jet lag, I'm not sure if it's over. Mike, how are you feeling? Welcome home.
Thanks, Huss. Yeah, I didn't bring a medal back home with me. I did bring a cold, maybe a little touch of bronchitis, a little bit of a hockey hangover. So it was nice, though, to be greeted, see the family. I was thrilled that none of them forgot who I was after 21 days.
How about Piper?
Piper was very, very happy to see me. Piper has this thing where when she gets so excited, We call it a pee explosion. She just spontaneously pees. Even though she's 4, it's just this thing she does. So we had an epic pee explosion yesterday when she saw me. It's worth the cleanup. So that it's the ultimate compliment when your dog just starts spraying urine everywhere. You know that she is thrilled to see you. So yeah, we've coined the term pee explosion. It was an epic one, but yeah, good to be home. I will take a lifetime of cherished memories from covering my first Olympics. Obviously, the Canadian in me would have liked to see a slightly different ending to the 2 big hockey games that I was fortunate to have an up close seat for, both the Canadian women's and the Canadians men's. That was tough, Huss.
Oh.
Let me say this. There's no cheering in the press box. I don't, when I cover the Jets, I've said this before on your show, I don't have a rooting interest. I mean, obviously I'm from Winnipeg. My family and friends all, a lot of them cheer for the Jets. I only cheer for like fast moving games. I cheer that they don't go to overtime because that can be a real pain from meeting deadline. However, I will be the first to admit there was some internal cheering going on in the press box by yours truly. Watching Canadian men and women play for gold. I'll admit it. I wanted Canada to win. And so that was tough. And especially on Sunday, like that was such a pro-Canadian crowd. It was the proverbial air going out of the balloon when Jack Hughes scored the golden goal. So what a bizarre scene, Huss. Let me just paint the quick picture for those who don't realize how it worked in the mixed zone, which is a gong show. I will miss many things about the Olympics. I will not miss a single second of the carnival that was the mixed zone. So you have players from both teams, like 50 players almost simultaneously coming through at once. It's like a cattle auction. We're all behind a fence or a gate, and media, and there's like 200 of us. They're screaming for players, Austin, Jack, Connor, and if guys want to stop to talk, they can. But you've got American and Canadian players all coming through at the same time. So you've got ecstatic American players with their gold medals. You got the Kachucks literally wrapped in the U.S. flag. And then you've got Canadian players like walking in front of them, behind them, beside them with their silver medals and their sad faces. And the best part of all, holding their little stuffed animal.
Yeah. Did McKinnon still have his when he made it to the mix zone?
That's the funniest thing of all, Huss. Every player still had their little tiny stuffy, except Nathan McKinnon. I have no idea if he gave his away to some kid on the way out, if he threw it into the sun. And so, in all the heat of the moment, I didn't see that, but I saw the video after the fact, and it was hilarious. His, what the bleep is this expression?
There's the picture.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So he's the only guy that didn't have his little stuffed mascot still with him. And I'd love to know, I would read a deep dive on what became of his mascot. By the way, I don't know if that was Tina or Milo that they were given. I couldn't tell the difference. The mascots were named Tina for Cortina and Milo for Milano. All I know is that those mascots they sold out of them in all their stores, and they were selling them for a fortune, and they didn't make enough of them. They demand outstrip supply, but I don't know, maybe Nate McKinnon put his on eBay or something. He could probably fetch a pretty penny. Not that he's hard up for cash.
Yeah, the look of the look of McKinnon.
There they are
on that afterwards. Yeah, those Olympic mascots are always a big deal in these events. The game, like you mentioned, you kind of felt like the air came out of the building. I mean, I still haven't recovered from it. I mean, I said yesterday I felt a little bit better than I did Monday, and I guess today, I mean, part of me is just so looking forward to, even if it is the 26th and 32nd place teams in the league, to move on from the loss to the States and move on from the aftermath. And I mean, personally, I mean, as I said, I understand, getting the invite and everything that comes with the pomp and circumstance of a win like that, and being celebrated by the country, and having the people get in on that. I'm sure the Canadian team would have been in and around it. It's just that in 2026, everything is so polarized, and I think for the most part, people just want to stay out of it because it's a lose-lose situation, and these battles are being fought on the social media streets nonstop right now, and you just sort of want, even with the loss, just want to get back to some semblance of normalcy. But it's been quite the scene over the last couple days, and I mean, the fact that our guy, Connor Hrabchak, is the American hero now is something that, I think most people are really happy for him. I mean, we know the sort of guy that he is. We know what he's done for the city and for the team. Kind of hoping that he played the game of his life in a losing cause. But, I mean, it just feels, like I said this before, it's like we're living in some sort of a simulation, to turn the TV on last night and see that scene in D.C.
Yeah.
And the guy that everyone's talking about, that everybody wants a piece of, is number 37 for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, well, let me start with the hockey part of it. I mean, Connor Hrabchak certainly quashed some narratives, I think, that were out there. And, I wasn't the only one to talk to him in the mix zone after the game, Huss. A lot of folks had a shot at him. Connor Hrabchak, he had some receipts that he was cashing in after that game on Sunday. And, I think he had thought of this, obviously, like the whole let them keep writing. I don't have the exact quote in front of me. It's something like, let the critics keep writing what they're writing about me. He said, I didn't have anything to prove. Excuse me. I think that's the one area I'd maybe take exception with what he said after the game. I think for Connor Hrabchak, he needed a game like that, especially in light of the playoffs last year, and how that went, President's Trophy winning, the season that he had that led to the Hart and the Vezina. Excuse me. And then obviously that, I think he was better against Dallas in the second round, but certainly against the Blues and Jordan Binnington, and on the road in that first round. Like the Jets survived that series in spite of Connor Hrabchak's poor play. So, there's that narrative that this is a guy who, when the spotlight gets brighter, he shrinks. And excuse me, it doesn't get much brighter than the gold medal game at the Olympics. And Connor Hrabchak really stole that game. The two breakaway saves on McDavid and Macklin Celebrini, the paddle save against Devon Toews that is going to be talked about forever. Obviously, some good luck. Nathan McKinnon, him and his stuffed animal missing that wide open net.
You believe that?
I'm sure he can. And that's probably part of his frustration, like with himself. He's going to have a hard time sleeping. So good for Connor Hrabchak, the hockey player, to, maybe put some narratives to rest. Now, obviously, Huss, it goes without saying, he had a much better defense playing in front of him on the U.S. Olympic team than he's ever had. But for people who want to sort of, I guess, not give him his flowers because, wow, look at the team he had in front of him. Well, sure, but look at the team he was also facing.
Well, watch the game. I mean, they got dog walk for the second and third period nonstop, and he just simply refused to break.
Yeah. What were the I saw one of the analytics site. It was like 5 point something in expected goals. Like that. That was an all-world performance and great on Connor Hellebuyck. The stuff that's happened since then, Connor Hellebuck's, there's no question in my mind that there's some very conflicted feelings about Connor Hellebuyck right now in this market. I think just him winning on behalf of the U.S., Jets fans, the majority, no issue. They cheer. Certainly, you probably cheer for country first, but you also want to see the players that you love from your local team do well. Some of this, what's gone on, obviously, with the U.S. president and this sort of very prolonged victory lap that the American players are taking, like, they've stepped into this for sure. And I have all the time in the world for the argument that these guys are being used as props. But they made their choice for sure. And they know the world we're living in. So Connor Hellebuyck, whether you agree or disagree or think it's fair or not, like, he's going to have some explaining to do. There's a form of damage control. That when he,
you think so?
I do.
For what?
Well, because I think you look at the climate we're living in, and certainly the idea that he is cozying up with the guy that has kind of put Canada in his crosshairs. Whether you're talking like tariffs and financial repercussions on this country, just the whole 51st state rhetoric. Like, I think a lot of Canadians, they don't want to see a guy that is an icon in a Canadian market cozying up to that. Now, is Connor Hellebuyck going to stand up to the president at the State of the Union and take a stand? Of course not. But does that, and again, I think it's optics, a lot of optics here, and the optics aren't great. And, you're seeing now, as a lot of these players return to their markets, even today, a lot of guys have some explained to you. And then, Huss, the other thing is, like, there's video of him and other teammates, obviously. We know who Donald Trump is and what he is and how he speaks. I mean, the stuff about the U.S. women's team and, that seemed to be a shot and that these guys were laughing. Again, read the room. The whole hockey culture is very much front and center these days, especially as it pertains to men's teams and boys' teams. That just wasn't a great look. And, even Kyle Connor, who obviously declined the invitation to go, I thought he could have handled yesterday a little better. And look at for some evidence, go look at what Jeremy Swayman said today about the women's team. Like, that was a layup, and guys at the very least should be, in my opinion, making comments like that. I get that this is a very hot button topic these days. Is Connor Hellebuyck going to get booed when he hits the ice next week? Probably not. Has his star dimmed a little bit in the eyes of some fans? I have no doubt about that, Huss. I mean, I've heard from a bunch of them. Is it to the point where his legacy is tarnished here? No, I wouldn't go so far as saying that, but I think there will be people who look at him differently now because he was seen as, complicit, if you will. And, certainly you can make the argument he's just going along with the pack.
Like, complicit in what?
Well, complicit in cozying up to a guy that has made
what do you
Canada.
mean cozying up? Like, I mean, it's not like, let's not make it look like he was rolling around with a red MAGA hat and all that. Like, that to me,
some guys were, Huss.
Yeah, but he wasn't. We're talking about him. Like, in Winnipeg, we're talking about him. So, like, let's be fair about this at the same point.
Yeah, I mean, the Connor Hellebuyck didn't come out. Although there is a guy on video, and I don't know who that is, that joked about closing the northern border.
Well, I think that might have been Brady Tkachuk, and we just talked to
which would be
Matt
insane.
Sekeres about that. And I was saying we talked to Matt in the morning, and Matt made the very astute point, having spent a lot of time in Ottawa, that if you want to talk about an elbows uptown, it would be the capital of our country, the home of the Ottawa Senators. And I was just checking the schedule. The Sens have a home game tomorrow night. Like, there's not even time for this sort of to die down, if you will. And that is the one situation. Like, I don't expect anything here. I don't expect really anything. I know Austin Matthews spoke today and sort of had what I think would be an answer specifically about the stupid joke that he made, when they were getting it. And I thought, from what I read, I haven't seen it myself, handled it well. And I doubt that there'll be anything in Toronto. Ottawa, to me, is a little different. And especially, I mean, listen, if we want to talk about the guys that have really dove all in on that stuff, like Hrabchak was being paraded around, whether it was news or anything, because he was the hero.
Yeah.
The Tkachuks are paraded around because they're sort of the leaders, if you will, and all of that.
Face.
And Matthew Tkachuk has always been, if you want to pick out guys like, that have sort of put their political leanings forward, he's there. So to me, that situation, as the captain of the Ottawa Senators, I'll be very interested to see how that goes, because I think if there's the potential that there is blowback anywhere, it's going to be Ottawa tomorrow night.
So I'll just leave it with this, Huss, because we could talk forever about this. And, I think in a lot of ways, people have their positions. You're probably not changing the majority of people's takes on this. It's about optics. It's about timing. I mean, besides kind of the whole Canada-US tensions, let's call them that. That's probably too light of a word, but between what Donald Trump has said and in some cases actually done to Canada, there's a lot of people that view him as kind of an enemy. And add in the fact that, yesterday of all days, as these players are spending, part of this prolonged victory lap in the company of the president, this is on the same day where the New York Times has a report that the Department of Justice had suppressed information about him that further implicates him in the whole Epstein, scandal, and that there's potentially explosive evidence out there linking him to all kinds of just the most heinous acts imaginable. Is that who you want to be keeping company? And again, you're right. I mean, some guys went further than others, like with the full MAGA hats and whatnot, wrapping themselves literally in the flag. No, Connor Hrabchak didn't go that far. But the fact that the guy involved in all this is bestowing upon him this Presidential Medal of Honor. And again, I get Connor Hrabchak didn't lobby to get that. And nor at that point is he going to turn it down. Maybe in hindsight, the best thing to do here, Huss, would have been to follow the lead of the other five guys who, for whatever reasons, opted not to go. Like, whether that was a form of silent protest or just avoiding what I think we can mostly agree here has turned into a grenade, a landmine. And now, like, Huss, there's probably a reason. Have you seen a single post from the Jets social media account about Hrabchak and the president and this honor? Well, no. And why? Because everybody realizes this is probably...
It's a no-win situation. I mean, no-win situation. It'll be... it's the same thing. Why? I mean, we sort of have to talk about it and do it, but I hope that this is the last time we sort of get into it. We can move on with the season. And, I'll be, and as I said, I'm happy that that the season is resuming on the West Coast for 3 games.
Well, it's probably it's probably a good thing for Hrabchak and the Jets where these games are being played. The Hrabchak's not even in Vancouver today, so he'll join them in California. There's not a lot of media that's like this. This is not New York or Toronto or Montreal or Chicago even, or like go down the list. Any Canadian market.
Is Ken's on this trip?
Ken's on the trip.
Okay.
I don't believe there's any other media on the trip. And I don't believe in California, you're not going to get a huge media gallery that's going to want to grill Connor Hellebuyck when presumably he doesn't avail in the next day or two. So
no, when they ask him, they'll be like, "Hey, how great is it to be a gold medalist?" And
right, he's in America.
Yeah,
he's in America. So that being said, I do believe there will be, and whether the Jets make him available, and we'll see how that goes. I don't think it'll be completely over. I think when they're back next week here in Winnipeg, I think there will be an ask for Connor Hellebuyck. And I guess depends on what gets said in the next couple days or doesn't get said. I think there will be more questions, and then we'll see how that goes. And then I think it's probably moving on. But probably not the worst thing for him and the Jets that they have some time and some distance here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you on that. As far as the team goes, they're back at it tonight. No JMO, no Neil Pionk. Big Stan getting a little taste of what it's like to be in Josh Morrissey's shoes, playing with Dylan DeMello and quarterbacking the number one power play unit. What do you make of these 5 games going into the trade deadline, considering the I mean, very precarious, which is being, I think, quite quite complimentary to their situation right now, knowing what the playoff picture looks like in the West.
Well, I saw one of the insiders, I think it might have been Pierre Lebrun, that said, hearing from a number of teams, that they're going to use these next 2 or 3 games going into the weekend to kind of determine where they're at. Let me just clearly state, Huss, I sure hope the Jets aren't one of those teams. And if they are, they're delusional. Their fate, to me, got sealed before the Olympic break. And I guess if there was any lingering doubt, it should have been erased with that kind of stinker against Montreal to close out the pre-Olympic portion of the schedule. I think the Jets need to have a very clearly defined approach to what's going to happen between now and a week from Friday when the trade deadline is. That being said, not the most attractive matchup on paper tonight, us. This is not Canada, the U.S., the rubber match. There are a couple things I'm personally excited to see. So number one is seeing Ville Heinola and Elias Salomonsson both in the lineup at the same time. And, specifically, like, I think we've seen, we've seen a lot of Elias already, and we know what he can bring. And I think there should be a consensus that this is a guy that deserves a very long runway here, not just the rest of this year, but certainly in the future. But for Ville, a bit of a forgotten guy who's, after a tough start with the Moose this year, has really put together a pretty solid season down there. And to see that he's going to, get a chance, I think he's running the second power play. Good for him. And I'm excited to see, I'd really like to see Josh Morrissey in the lineup with these guys as well. But like those two guys, Salomonsson, Heinola, very highly touted draft picks, obviously kind of at different points in their careers right now. But I'm excited to see what the blue line looks like. And, is this a bit of a peek as to what we may see in a week and a bit from now? Sure, they may get a couple injured guys back, but it's also possible they move some guys out. So this is a big game for Ville, no question about it. I'm also curious to see what we get from Kyle Connor, who, as we just talked about, he didn't go to the White House.
I got the feeling, Mike, that he just couldn't wait to get out of there fast enough, considering how difficult I'm sure that was. Not to bring it back, but for everyone thinking this is a big political statement or something like that, I think this is a guy that was devastated that he wasn't part of really the team after the first 2 games, and just getting back to normalcy and back to work seemed to be what he wanted to do more than anything.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that of the 5 guys who didn't go, Huss, 3 of the 5 were the 3 healthy scratches for most of the Olympics. Jake Ottinger, Jackson Lacombe, the extra defenseman, and Kyle Connor. Maybe if they felt personally like they had played a bigger hand in this win, maybe they handle things a little differently. But Jay Gensel and Brock Nelson are the only 2 of the 5 that didn't go that you could say, well, they actually kind of had their fingerprints over what the U.S. did. But I just think motivation comes in many forms, and once again, and we were sort of talking about this last year too after 4 Nations, but Kyle Connor should have plenty of motivation to, he hasn't played a hockey game now in a couple weeks. He was deemed expendable by this team again. And does he want to now take it out on the rest of the league and, make a bit of a statement? The Jets wouldn't mind if he does that. Or is there sort of a hangover for him too? So, he's obviously back with very familiar line mates, with that top line back together again, Huss. And, you look at what the Jets are missing in their lineup right now, especially with Josh Morrissey. They're probably going to need that top line even more if they're going to have some success. And so, we'll see what Kyle Connor brings to the table. And if he's kind of like comes charging out of the gate tonight like a bull, wanting to make a statement. So that's what I'll be looking for. This is a big one, Huss. That there's 10 points separating the Jets and the Canucks for dead last, and the best odds at whether it's Gavin McKenna or Ivor Stenberg or whatever. So we'll see. Can the Jets close that gap to 8? Do they take an insurmountable 12-point lead? We'll see.
Listen, the Canucks.
They're not getting caught. They're
left
terrible.
the building. They're
agreed.
I mean, the funny thing is, you look at Vancouver with 42 points. There's a 7-point gap between them and the St. Louis Blues. Where it is interesting is in that 2 to 6 range.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm gonna just put it up in the league view here. So you've got Vancouver at 42, St. Louis 49, the Rangers 50, and then the Jets and Flames at 52 and Chicago at 53. Then there's a 5-point gap. Barring 5 points, as we've talked about, is a lot to make up. Now,
it is.
It only takes one team to completely shut it down and kind of join that group. But I would say the odds are that if you include Chicago with that group of Winnipeg, Chicago, Calgary, New York, St. Louis, Vancouver, barring a extended winning streak, or a team like New Jersey or Nashville or San Jose, winning 1-10, that's probably your group. And that's probably the jockeying that will be of the top 6 picks. And again, it's draft lottery, right? So, if you're finished last, you're guaranteed a top 3 pick. You can only move back 2.
Right.
And, as far as what happens with other teams, that every one of those teams looks to be sellers. And I would say even more so than Winnipeg. My expectations are that the Jets will move expiring contracts. Listen, I would be listening on players with term as well.
Yep.
Whether we're talking about a DeMello or a Niederreiter or I've said this before. Nemesnikov for sure. I love Iafallo. I hope that he sticks around. I think he's an important cultural player for the Jets and certainly a valuable player that you can play in a bunch of different spots. But if anyone's thinking that any of the guys with no moves or no trades that, have big contracts and have signed here, that's not happening. It's probably not happening, period, but it sure as hell isn't happening at the deadline.
Well, and what may inadvertently be helping the Jets here is, and you never want to cheer for injuries, obviously, but Josh Morrissey getting hurt at the Olympics and, now potentially being out for some time. That's a big loss on the blue line. Neil Pionk, suffering a new injury. That was a bit of a shock. and now potentially being out for another extended period of time. And then Nino Niederreiter coming back, from feeling pretty good, I think, about his Olympics, scored in that last game for Switzerland. But now him having an injury. So suddenly you got three guys, Huss, who, like when we looked at this return from the Olympics, you had Morrissey, Niederreiter, and Pionk all penciled into the lineup tonight or in the next day or two, depending on if guys were given any time off after the Olympics. Excuse me. But now they're not going to be in the lineup tonight and maybe for the foreseeable future. So the Jets lineup got weaker, and we'll see what happens between now and the deadline. Good opportunity for some guys on the Moose who have been kind of working hard, quietly putting their head down, paying their dues. And, we'll see what they can bring to the table, because they're not just now playing for some of these guys, Huss. It's not just about the rest of this season. It's looking beyond and into the summer. So some interesting days ahead. The hockey itself may not be what we just got used to watching, but plenty of intrigue with the trade deadline looming. We should also hear from Kevin Cheveldayoff here, in the next 9 days or so. He generally speaks at or around the trade deadline. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, and I do wonder, barring the team winning all of these games going into the deadline, I do wonder how much more of Josh we'll see this year. Like, I will remind people in 2016, there was a number of players that sort of all of a sudden were out indefinitely at the end of the season. The irony of that is that they called up a bunch of guys and I think won the final 6 games of the season, and everyone was freaking out that it was going to ruin their draft position. And then they ended up moving all the way up to second to get Patrick Laine, another player who's on the trade bait board right now. And again, we'll get into that next week because that really will dominate most of the conversations. But we're going to head out to BC in just a second, get a feel on the buzz in the city for this big one tonight.
Let me just quickly say on Morrissey, it's pretty evident to me, Huss. He suffered a setback, and we'll learn, I'm sure, in the coming days what exactly he's dealing with. The one interesting thing to me, I don't know if it caught you by surprise, certainly did me, is I saw when he got hurt. I thought it was a lower body injury, the way he was laboring off the ice.
Me too.
It's an upper body injury, and I have no idea what he's dealing with.
Like, do we...
Is it a concussion? But he didn't hit his head. There was nothing that happened at all that would lead you to think concussion. Like he clipped legs with Marty Necas and kind of grimaced and slowly made his way to the bench. How does that become an upper body injury?
That's why I'll be honest. I'm not convinced that that's true or correct.
Well, the only thing I can think, Huss, is it possible there's a whole new injury that happened when he was trying to work his way back? Like he was working his tail off. I saw that practice last Tuesday in Milan. He was, and clearly something went wrong after that. So did he, and you know how injuries can be, right? Maybe you're compensating for one thing and you end up doing something else entirely. So I don't know. It's a bizarre situation, obviously very unfortunate for Josh, but we'll see what the story is. I was stunned, and it was from Team Canada itself that said upper body. So are they wrong? Are they being misleading? Or I just don't know. When you look back at that first game against Czechia, I have no idea how an upper body injury comes out of that. But we'll see.
I'm with you. I mean, considering we're just going, it's like one or the other. I mean, one guy said something and they meant the other or something, just because, there's not anything that would indicated, something else. But, listen, maybe if there's a silver lining to this, it is where the Jets are in the standings, because can you imagine?
A year ago, oh boy.
All of a sudden you're right in the thick of things and you're without. And I'll make the argument that outside of Hellebuck, if you're looking at guys that impact the ability to win, there's nobody on that team, and that's with all due respect to everybody up front. Morrissey does so much for Winnipeg, plays so much. is so important that, for people that are just paying attention to the standings and the draft lottery, I mean, Josh Morrissey being out probably helps the Jets in that matter. Certainly not for winning games. You were amazing that whole time. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. We'll handle the less spectacular background today and get some rest. Yes. Get a little Buckleys in there, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week as we get ready for the deadline on Friday. Mike, thanks as always, pal.
You bet, Huss. Have a great week. Take
All
care.
right, there's Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. We did hit the clean line lines a little earlier today on the program. We'll get an update on that from Connor right away. Of course, Clean Line is your local leader for plumbing, heating, and electrical. Check them out at cleanline.ca, and don't forget 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services. You just can't wait to get back out to the bar and watch the game, watch the Jets back again, and move on from the Olympics. I hear ya. Hit up Boston Pizza tonight. 9 p.m. start, a little later than you'd probably like, but can guarantee you that there'll be ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and, of course, Jets Pick-a-Player contest for all Winnipeg Jet games at local BPs with your chance to win great BP food and prizes. If you are staying at home tonight and don't want to leave the house, you can order online at bostonpizza.com. Our friends at Royal are ready to move past the Olympics and down the stretch drive of the NHL season, and, of course, getting ready for baseball. Been paying attention to Blue Jays spring training the last few days, starting to get ready for the boys' summer. Get ready for the new Blue Jays season down at Royal Sports with all the new MLB gear coming in by the day. And, of course, with spring break just around the corner. For those of you that are hitting the slopes, the biggest and best snowboard section in town has been busy for the last couple months. People getting ready to hit the hills. Nowhere better than Royal Sports to get all your snowboard gear and equipment with great deals awaiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Twitter, or Instagram, at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Do want to mention to you all that the HSC Fund a Need campaign is now well underway, hoping to improve spine surgery and joint replacement, which are two of the biggest, longest surgical wait lists in Manitoba. They're actively expanding capacity to meet that growing demand at the HSC. They're looking to raise $425,000, and every dollar will be matched, doubling the impact of each donation. With this investment, the HSC will be able to perform 200 additional spine surgeries per year and 400 additional joint replacements per year. If you have the ability to make a donation, of course, there'll be a tax receipt, and it will be doubled as well. Now's the time to help the HSC Foundation with their 2026 Fund a Need campaign. All right, Connor's ready to go. Let's quickly tee up and give a big thanks to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug, and then head out to the West Coast.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, back on WST, and we head out to beautiful Vancouver, BC for the second time today. I had a great chat with Matt Sekeres of Sekeres and Price. Now our own Connor Hrabchak is taking in the buzz around the city before this big one tonight. What's going on, dude? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. And yeah, I mean, picked before the season. I picked one hockey game that I was going to cover on the road this year. Did I pick the best game? Probably not, but is this not all exactly what we need right now? Canada just lost a few days ago. Yeah, like we need a palate cleanser. I want to see Logan Stanley play 20 minutes tonight and be on the top power play. I want to see Ville Heinola playing tonight. Like, come on. This is, it's kind of like getting me riled up, but I can't stand the like, oh, no duh, we're going from Canada, USA to Jets, Canucks. Like, this is the NHL. This is what happens, man. There's injuries, and the Jets are in the position they're in. So I think this is a perfect palate cleanser for all of us. Get away, as far away from Canada, USA as possible, going right into Jets, Canucks with multiple Jets injuries playing a factor in tonight's game. I'm actually weirdly excited for tonight, Huss.
Preach,
I don't know
buddy,
about you.
preach. I'm right there with you. I'm going to be ready for this game tonight. I want to get back to some semblance of normalcy. Unfortunately, the norm is talking about the standings and the playoff. But to your point, with Josh Morrissey out, and I don't think any urgent need to have him come back, with Pionk now week to week, this is a big opportunity. First of all, I mean, if you want to talk about showcasing a player for a possible deal, could the big man be in a better spot tonight? I will get to this in a minute, but Logan Stanley does not usually appear on the Coolbet goal, assist, and point prop options. I made this special request in, so we may be getting a big Stan bet for tonight. But he's going to get a chance to feel what it's like to be Josh Morrissey playing with Dylan DeMello. We're going to see Elias Salmonson play some big minutes with the new dad, Dylan Sandberg. We'll see if Sandberg's got the baby swag for tonight. And yes, the return of Ville Heinola playing with Luke Schenn.
He's been free.
And hopefully Ville can make Schenn look like he's ready for some playoff action, and maybe that will get a little bit more interest. But the blue line in particular, I think over this next little bit leading into the deadline, because of the availability of some of the players that are in the lineup, and frankly, I'll include Ville there as well. We were just having a conversation. I mean, like, there's no playoff team that's like, oh, we want that guy, he's coming in. But, you want to win the cup, you need 9, 10, 11 deep on the blue line. He certainly could be some insurance. I also think that there could be a team or two that's sort of out of the playoffs that's looking more into the future that might be willing to give a little something up to get him into the mix, give him an opportunity, and see whether there might be a future with him there. So there is some intrigue on that blue line, even if I think most of Jet fans kind of realize that the odds of going on some sort of a Buffalo or Columbus-like run in this final stretch is highly unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. And there is so much intrigue really top to bottom on that blue line, because Logan Stanley, look, I listed the line rushes as Stanley DeMello being the top pair, and that's got some people riled up. But like Sandberg Salamonson is the top pair, I think, or I'd venture to say that line that pairing, will play the most at 5-on-5 tonight. I would expect both of those guys, Sandberg and Salamonson, to be north of 20 minutes.
Well, they got to do that. You got to keep Sand fresh for the power play.
True, yeah. You got to keep him fresh and look, we just spoke to Logan Stanley and asked him about being on the top power play and how it's different from being on the second unit, and he said, handedness obviously plays a factor. Mark Scheifele told Logan Stanley that, don't try and please us on the flanks. Do what you need to do. If there's a shot available, unleash the back scratcher clap bomb that we've seen multiple times this year, right? But Stanley admitted there's some pretty good players on his flanks too. So he's going to try and manage that. He's going to try and manage a bigger workload. He said that the Sandberg injury earlier in the year when he was playing more has maybe prepared him for a bigger role and playing more and being in rhythm and all of those things. And Ville Heinola, by all accounts, had a slow start this season with the Manitoba Moose after being sent down and being the last guy, the 9th defenseman on an 8-defenseman group for the Winnipeg Jets to start the season. He's got sent down, and I mean, by all accounts, I went to a Moose game last week. He had a goal and an assist, and by all accounts, he's been getting better and improving as the season has gone on. So this might be a little bit of like, okay, Ville Heinola is still 24. He's having a good season with the Moose, but also he might be the guy who's just playing the best right now and might have just earned the call-up. So how is he going to look in probably a sheltered third-pairing role alongside Luke Schenn? Going to be really interesting to me. But, I mean, for me, Huss, Dylan Sandberg is my guy, and I've loved what Elias Salomonsson has done so far since his second recall. That pairing moving into even more responsibility is going to be something that's very intriguing to me when Josh Morrissey's out, along with the Stanley stuff and the Ville Heinola. Ville being freed, Huss. Like, isn't this what everyone wanted? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it might be a temporary get out of jail free card, but yeah. I mean, to his credit, I'm not sure that he handled everything great in the first couple months of the season, but his play has done the talking kind of since in the new year. And he's here right now. And listen, for Elias Almanson, it's a chance to play more with Dylan Sandberg and, continue to try to establish yourself as a reliable, everyday member of the Jet blue line. For a guy like Billy, every single time he gets a chance to play in this league, it's a chance to show 31 other teams that there's potential there, that, he'd be a guy that you can give a chance to and make it happen. And obviously that is going to be the case tonight. Obviously, the things just sort of wrapped up. What did Arnie have to say about getting back onto the ice, getting game tonight, the lineup? What did you garner from head coach Scott Arniel and his comments after the skate?
Yeah, so we spoke to Koepke, Stanley, and Scott Arniel after the skate, and all of them talked about how this was kind of a mini training camp. So the past 10 days, 7 days, whatever the number ended up being, they've spent their time at the Hockey for All Center practicing all kinds of different things. Scott Arniel said he loved the fact that he could show the team video and then go out and work on it. He showed them some forechecking clips and then go and work on it. Power play, penalty kill, all of that stuff. So he loved the fact that he got all of that time with his group to prepare for what they're bracing to be as a stretch run to make the playoffs. They brought up the playoffs, Koepke, Stanley, and Arniel, as unlikely as it might be, and all of the probabilities that we can look at in the NHL standings that you were looking at with Mike. This team wants to go on a Columbus or Buffalo type run and get themselves into the playoff picture. So Scott Arniel was very happy to get that time with his group to really nail down a few things. And one thing that I asked him about was Cole Perfetti. He was playing his best hockey of the season going into the break. I think this is another storyline, the Adam Lowrys of the world who maybe took a little bit of a slower start after the hip surgery. Dylan Sandberg, the broken wrist, a bit of a slower start. Jonathan Toews, maybe the schedule caught up to him, a bit of a slower start. But all of those guys were starting to look more like themselves going into the break. Coming out of the break, how are they going to look in, Lowry's the second line center. Sandberg's got massive responsibility. Toews is in there too. Cole Perfetti was playing his best hockey. How does he look still on the top power play? All of those things. So Scott Arniel was very, very excited for the opportunity that lies ahead. He was thankful for the time that he got with his group to show clips and video and work on a number of different things in what he called basically a mini training camp. And he's fired up to get going and back into the grind and return to normalcy, like you said, Huss, with the Jets playing, 10 days till the deadline, 5 games. Like they're playing a ton, and then March is even crazier. So there's no time to think right now. They got their mini training camp in, and now it's full steam ahead.
Connor, how'd Kyle Connor look out there, and what do you expect from KFC tonight?
Yeah, that was another thing that we talked to Scott Arniel about. And, he mentioned that it's very similar to the Four Nations last year where he got scratched in the final game. This time, obviously, the U.S. winning gold, but he looked great at morning skate, looked great at practice yesterday. I wasn't there at practice, but talked with Ken Wiebe, who's here with me in Vancouver. And I'm expecting a motivated Kyle Connor down the stretch here. And you could say the same about Mark Scheifele, who many people believe was snubbed for Team Canada with where he is in the scoring race and all of those things. So this final stretch of the season, Kyle Connor may be playing with something to prove that he believed he shouldn't have been scratched, and maybe it was just 1 or 2 bad games for the U.S. and he should have been in the lineup. And then obviously Mark Scheifele not even being on Canada at all. I expect those two guys who are paired up again, they've been paired up all season long, to come out firing. And a team, Vancouver, you can run through their lines, you can look at where they are in the standings. They're not very good. So you look at the top line of Connor, Scheifele, Vilardi being united tonight. They're going to play north of 18 minutes, of course. I expect them to be able to generate offense. And Kyle Connor, who's fresh, wasn't playing in the gold medal game. Mark Scheifele got the break, and Vilardi back up on that top line. I'm expecting a big offensive night from those three against a Canucks blue line that, look, they can line match, they can do what they want. With those three together, it probably shouldn't even matter, and they should be able to generate some offense.
Yeah, are you up in the press box tonight? You're going to be in the seats.
I'm up in the press box. Yeah, working, Huss. They did install new seats here. I don't know if this is, like, if anyone cares about this at all outside of people that are in Vancouver. Okay, so the seats were all like maroon before, and now they're like these very like thick black seats that are just like almost like luxurious. Like, I don't know. And it's the whole stadium too. So it's weird. I walked in here, I was like, wow, all the seats are black. I remember it being maroon. And yeah, as you can see there, that maroon patch there, they've now made black seats. Every single seat in this building is now black. So they spent that over the Olympic break, kind of getting some new seats in here, and they're very comfortable. I sat in one during morning skate and can confirm. If you're a Jets fan going to the game tonight, leave a seat review on WST tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. Hey, these are These are things that matter. That was, the seats in that building were antiquated, to say the least, and there was plenty of complaints about them. And while the team has taken a nosedive in the standings, they're at least doing something for the fans that will be there. I would imagine some good seats are still available for this one tonight.
I was looking on Ticketmaster earlier. It wasn't bad. Again, Jets are 28th, Canucks are 32nd. First game out of the Olympic break. You maybe don't expect it. I don't know. I'll have an attendance report for you, Huss, but we'll see. Maybe these new seats fans are flocking to the arena to try out the new seats.
That could be it. Well, tell you what, I'm looking. Listen, as I say, just happy to have a game, and these next 5 are going to be really interesting as we get closer to what I think is on everyone's mind around the league as we move past the Olympics, and that's the next week's NHL trade deadline. We'll have full coverage and extended show as we always do on deadline day here on Winnipeg Sports Talk with all of us and many of our regulars for next week. You have a great one tonight and a great rest of the trip. We'll look forward to catching up with you. See if you can jump on that bird down to Anaheim. Wouldn't be a bad place to go for a few days. But seriously, enjoy the time in Vancouver. We'll look forward to seeing you when you get back, and we'll catch up later on this week.
Thanks, Huss. Yeah, we've gotten some incredible weather here. Like Vancouver, the notion is that it's always raining, right?
Cut his mic.
Yeah. Yesterday was like plus 10 and sunny. Today again, like plus 9 and mix of sun and cloud. So I'm enjoying the nice weather. And I'm very excited for Jets hockey to be back, and I'm excited for the grind ahead. I know I won't be going down to Anaheim, but when I come back home and when the Jets come back home, I think it's an 8-game homestand mixed into the trade deadline there. So it's going to be a very busy time. Lots of players getting new opportunities. I'm excited for this final stretch here.
Yeah, listen, I think there's a possibility that there's a player or two, potentially a younger player, maybe somebody that was in the AHL that gets acquired at deals that will get an opportunity for a look. I think we'll get a steady diet of Elias Salmonson. And then, up forward, to me, if they're trading any of Gustav Nyquist, Tanner Pearson, Cole Koepke, the players, Vlad. If any of those guys go up front, and I expect we'll probably see at least 1 or 2 of them, that does open up. Walker Duehr doesn't look to be in the lineup tonight, but I do think he'll play games this year. And then we'll see, where, so many of the guys, Brad Lambert, Braden Yeager, Colby Barlow, and never mind David Gustafson, Fagemo. There's a bunch of guys that, that's the one thing about the Moose. There's not a clear 1 or 2. And if anything, it's probably David Gustafson, who we're quite familiar with, that would get the call. But, how the organization handles opportunity, post-trade deadline is going to be something that, we'll be interested in. And as I say, even if we're probably not tucking away all of our spare change for whiteout tickets, there's still lots to be played for, a lot of intrigue, and listen, a lot of work to be done for this team to avoid similar conversations a year from now, especially when you think about the guy that you got in net that has shown that he's very capable of winning on the right squad. Connor, enjoy it and travel safely. We'll see you back here in the Peg.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
There's Connor Hrabchak. He will be at the game. And, of course, we'll have post-game stuff tonight here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. That'll be available for you on the channel a little later on. Or coming up tomorrow morning when you get up, just check the YouTube channel or the podcast. And full synopsis of Connor with boots on the ground in Vancouver. All right, let's get Remo back in here. We got a full slate of games in the NHL tonight, and your last chance to get in on these futures before they go off the board when things start. Remo, Jets tonight, -130 over at Coolbet. Let's get to the Coolbet lines. -130, Eric Comrie starting against Vancouver at +110. I think there's a good chance the Jets win this game, but to me, I think I'm most interested in a couple of the prop options, and I pull up player goals. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a big Kyle Connor game. Obviously the opponent is the worst team in the league. I think he kind of comes into this game with a bad taste in his mouth and a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He'll be reunited with Scheifele and Velarde. Kyle Connor at plus 127. I don't mind that at all. Kyle Connor at plus 590 for a couple, I think I'll consider. And then, as I mentioned, I put in the call to Coolbet. I'm like, we need Big Stan on this list for tonight. And I'm officially putting in a little bit of a sprinkle on Logan Stanley, plus 750 to go double-digit goals for the season and score his 10th.
Oh, sorry. I think you meant double-digit. Sorry, I think I meant 2 in the game. Yeah, sure. Sure. Why not? He's getting the minutes. I think you just look for opportunity for sure. And if Logan Stanley is getting power play minutes on power play 1, and we know the shot that he has, then yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible he's going to be getting the ice time. And Connor did tweet out the power play. Here it is, power play 1. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Perfetti, Stanley. And then power play 2, Taves, Nyquist, Iafallo, Nemestikov, Heinola. So, sure, I think there's actually this. If you were ever to bet Logan Stanley to score, which I probably wouldn't, even though he's got so many goals this year, playing third pair minutes without power play, I wouldn't recommend that. But if you want to go for a long shot, yeah, the ice time's there. Defense pair 1. Power play 1. We know he's got a good shot. Sure. I think it's definitely worth some fun there. I'm
going to be like legit fired up when I see the ref's hand go up in Vancouver going down a man tonight. Stanley plus 170 to get a point tonight as well.
He's playing on anyone playing on the power play plus money, sure. I think is a good value.
Well,
power play 1.
And you know what? I mean, he's got that heater. I mean, I think the guys will be trying to set him up and let it rip. So as I said, we'll have a little fun with a couple Stanley props tonight. I'm going to bet Kyle Connor to score. For points, as I mentioned, for points, Stan's plus 170. For 2 points in the game, Kyle Connor's plus 160, Scheifele's plus 162. Gabe Velarde plus 290. I just have a feeling that top line might eat tonight, big time. With the layoff and everything as we've talked about with Kyle Connor, plus 420 for a 3-point game for either Kyle Connor or Mark Scheifele. Gabe Velarde plus 840 on that as well. Other games tonight in the league. We've got the Buffalo Sabres in New Jersey to take on the Devils. It's basically a pick'em. The Flyers are in D.C. to take on the Caps. Washington minus 154 favorites. The TML, Toronto Maple Leafs, desperately trying to get on a bit of a win streak they're in Tampa Bay to take on the Lightning. And some really sad news. I heard Lightning in Canada head coach John Cooper lost his father, and he'll not be on the bench tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Kraken are in Dallas to take on the Stars. Stars with plenty of Olympians, including a bunch of Finns who also played right through to the bronze medal game. Dallas minus 167, Kraken plus 141. The Avalanche are in Utah to take on the Mammoth. Colorado minus 123. Utah plus 105. Vegas in LA to take on the Kings. LA minus 159. Vegas plus 135. That line has moved quite a bit. I have a feeling that potentially Mark Stone, maybe Mitch Marner might not be playing in that game. Of course, Kings begin life without Kevin Fiala, who was lost, I believe, for the season. With that horrible injury that happened against Team Canada. Kings minus 159, Vegas plus 135. And then, as we mentioned, Jets-Canucks, Jets minus 130, Canucks plus 110. There is one more game on the docket tonight. That's Edmonton and Anaheim. And I see Edmonton's gone from like minus 114 to minus 125, which tells me that Connor McDavid has said he is good to go for the game tonight. We'll get confirmation closer to it. Anaheim plus 106. Of course, the Ducks right in the middle of the playoff race and hosting the Jets in their next game after Edmonton comes to town tonight.
Yeah, and some players coming back from injury who were injured during the break. Logan Cooley activated for Utah, missed a ton of time with a knee injury. I saw Morgan Riley back for Toronto. One thing for Tampa, Braden Point back in the lineup for Tampa. Missed
Leo
the
Carlson
Olympics.
for the Ducks?
I
was looking at that. I know he was
double-check.
practicing when they came back in, so I'm expecting him to play. I'm putting him in my fantasy lineup.
I think so. Yeah, because I had to edit my fantasy lineup as well, and I do have Logan Cooley. That's and what's his face and Morgan Riley. We'll see Panarin make his debut. You mentioned with LA on the top line with Kempe and Alex Laferriere, and I don't know if you saw, but Panarin was able to get number 72 from the mascot Bailey.
He bought Bailey a watch, I believe.
Yeah, he got Bailey a watch, so I'm sure Bailey will be there.
I wonder if it would be actually hilarious if the mascot is like wearing a massive blinger.
Let me see if they tweeted out Bailey. I don't know. I think I follow Bailey on X. I do. Oh, here's the picture. Oh, this is too good. Okay, check this out.
I was fired up.
Check this out. I don't know if this was a bit or
he
not.
Got the watch, so he better be wearing the watch at the game. That's got to be part.
Look at
part
that
of his
smile from Panarin giving Bailey the watch, and they're hugging.
Good work, Kings. Good work, social media team.
This may just have been a bit for social, but I'm here for that, where they tell the insiders,
No. Bailey said, you have to buy me a Rolex. Otherwise, pick another number, pal. I was here first.
Wasn't good.
So, Panarin. What's Panarin to score in his first game here?
That's a good question.
Let's just pull this up. A little first game love. Panarin plus 170.
It's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. Maybe we'll put a little sprinkle together on that one tonight. That is, again, a few late games, but it all gets going early. I might settle in for a big night of hockey watching. Now I guess I have to. I've gone all in on Buffalo all season. Buffalo tonight, minus 108. We'll be taking the Sabres, and kind of take a look at that one. I'm interested in that Leafs Lightning game early, and that'll take us right up to puck drop tonight for Jets and Canucks at 9:00 p.m. Elsewhere over at Coolbet, Patty and I have put together the Sunday Sweat Club parlay. I'm just looking to see where we got it. Here we are. We're going with Rasmus Højgaard, Michael Thorbjornsen, and Brooks Koepka, all to place top 20. And that, the boy's taking care of us nicely. Plus 938 boosted to plus 1090. So I'll definitely have a piece of that. And I do like Brooks for a top 20 on its own. Going to take a couple long shots as well in this tournament. Seems pretty wide open. And it's great. And by the way, there is a great actual boost I should mention in the exclusives just over on the side, the PMA weekly boost from our pal Pat Mayo. Ryan Gerard is now a co-favorite to win this tournament with Shane Lowry at 16-1. If you do it in the PME weekly boost, it's boosted to 21-1, which a wide open field, real nice number. He's had some good results so far this year. So I'll be jumping on that as well and taking care of the extra plus 500 on the bet. You know what we're going to have to do, Reem? A WST winners episode with the two of us and probably the Coolbet guys. We got to get ready for the World Baseball Classic.
Yes, I am fired up. It kind of sneaks up on you. And
when are the first games?
March 3? Let me just double check when it is. March 5 to March 17. And Canada's, Freddie Freeman not playing for Canada, but they got some good players. I don't think they're as strong as they've been in the past. I think, your eyes are on Japan, U.S., even if some of the top U.S. players are just coming in, saying hi, and going back like Tariq Skubal.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I don't know. They don't take it as seriously. Like Jack Hughes lost teeth for Team USA. I don't think any baseball players are ready for that type of commitment for Team USA, but the ones who are there are going to try. And yeah, Cuba's always interesting, but Dominican and Puerto Rico as well. But it's been, was it Trout versus Ohtani? Was that the last one? That how it ended with Ohtani striking out Trout? I mean, that was incredible.
So good. And listen, for all of you that certainly coming out of the Olympics are hoping to see the U.S. take an L.
Oh, yeah.
They're the favorite at -105. Japan, I think, is our best chance for them to lose. Japan's +350. I
like Dominican.
I will be okay. Well, maybe we go with both of those and just hopefully get a winner at the expense of the USA. Although they'll say they don't care about baseball anymore. They're hockey nation now.
Yeah, they're double gold in hockey. They don't care. Yeah, this Dominican roster is pretty good, but they do have Vlad Guerrero Jr. So if you're like a Jays fan looking to roll with him, Dominican or Japan. As you mentioned,
pretty sad
Ohtani.
pretty sad that Vlad's playing for the Dominican Republic. Born in Canada, plays in Canada. How is he not a Canadian? How is he not playing for Canada at this event? It would have gone a long way, Vlad, with Canadian fans to maybe go in. Canada's in a pool with Puerto Rico, Cuba, Colombia, and Panama. Puerto Rico -133, Canada +325, and Canada is just above even money to advance from their pool at +105. So next week, we should get a guest on to get ready for the World Baseball Classic. We'll do that, I'm sure. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to get ready for the Brier. John Cullen on curling, joining us. So I'm really looking forward to that. We'll kind of pick John's brain for some bets. You got Brad Jacobs, who is the favorite +105 for the Canada. Matty Dunstone, Manitoba +205, and then the sentimental favorites, Gushu, his retirement Brier, on the rock at home +320. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. And just while we're mentioning curling, we'll get him on the program. But a huge WST congratulations to a great friend of the program, Reed Carruthers. Reed announced his retirement from competitive curling today after 20 years. Had some incredible runs, played in all the biggest events in the world. And, he did do a nice statement thanking his teammates and everyone that supported him. He has turned into a world-class coach, coaching the Anderson rink. I would imagine that will still be a part of his routine, but a young father moving forward to a new stage in his life. Always loved our chats with Reed over the years. A great dude, and just wishing him well in his post-competitive curling days, and may plenty of success come his way coaching with Carey and the gang. Hey, I want to shout out our friends at Aikens Lake. As I mentioned, can't wait to get out there in the summer with our friends that bought the auction at the HSC Gala event. Look forward to meeting with them and having a great time. Go to aikenslake.com for more information on booking. They're well over 75% booked for the entire summer right now. So get in there before it's full. And heads up, if you're a university student or maybe you have a child that's in university looking for spending a summer in paradise with an incredible team at Aikens Lake. They are looking to add a few members for their staff this year. So you can find out more details on that over at aikenslake.com or fire Pitt a message there or on X at Aikens Lake. That's going to do it for us, gang. Fun show today. Appreciated Mike McIntyre coming back on the program. Great conversation with Matt Sekeres. Of course, Connor joining us from BC at the game, and everyone being respectful in chat as well. We move on to tonight. Jets Canucks. We'll break it down tomorrow. We'll look ahead to Anaheim. Maybe get ready for the Sens return home for that Wings Sens game tomorrow, which is a very big one for Ottawa and everything else that comes around it. And of course, all the big stories in sports on the local and national scene, like you're getting every day here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, have a great night. Enjoy the hockey game. Join us tomorrow, 1 p.m. Big thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. That is going to do it for us. For Connor Hrabchak, Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.